This is KGW News at noon.
We start today's news at noon with an update on the Tunnel 5 fire burning on the Washington side of the gorge just west of White Salmon. We got an update this morning from fire officials. Some of the evacuation levels have dropped for areas on the east side of the fire. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm Drew Carney. One of the concerns today is that winds could pick back up later this afternoon. Let's go back to the beginning. This fire started on Sunday morning and has now burned a little more than 550 acres. It remains only 5% contained at this point. It is more active on the western edge, and yesterday it actually jumped the fire line on that side as crews created a new opportunity to put out that spot fire. So crews were able to stop that spot fire yesterday after it burned about a third of an acre. SR 14, meanwhile, is still closed for about a 10-mile stretch. Also, we want to let you know that KGW's Tim Gordon is getting a tour of the burned out area today. We'll have that report from Tim coming up later this afternoon, starting with the news at 4. Right now, though, we want to head over to the KGW Weather Center. Chris McGinnis is filling in for Rod Hill this afternoon. So, Chris, let's talk about the latest wind forecast for that part of the gorge today.
You know, Drew, really importantly here, one of the reasons why the fire hasn't spread that badly over the last couple of days is that the wind has not been a big issue in the gorge, which of course is an area that is notorious for very gusty winds almost every or all times of the year, right? Let's take it just a little east of that fire location. This is our live camera from Oregon's Veterans Home in the Dalles. You can certainly see some haze in the air there. Of course, Mount Hood there off in the distance as well. It's currently 89 in the Dalles, and the northwest breeze has been pretty consistent between about 17 and 20 miles an hour on the east end of the gorge. Right through the heart of the gorge near Hood River, the sustained winds today have been down around 10 to 12 miles an hour. But Futurecast does show the west wind picking up a little bit later. This might be a little bit on the high side, but the point here is that a lot of our modeling shows the west wind gusts beginning to ratchet up a bit this afternoon and probably even more so tomorrow. So we'll fast forward Futurecast through the night tonight and into Friday. This is just about 24 hours from now, and you can see the west winds between Carson and Hood River somewhere between 20 to 30 sustained with some higher gusts. That'll be into the day tomorrow. So firefighters still obviously have their hands full with the wind situation there. 76, last check at PDX, north breeze at 6. It is cooler now at noontime than it was yesterday at this time, but we're still 80 in Hillsborough, 74 in Corvallis, 77 in Eugene. And we're easily on our way to a high in the 90s. Instead of upper 90s today, though, I think right around maybe 92, 93 degrees at the worst. 91 is what I have us at 6 o'clock this afternoon. Cooler weather begins to creep in as we go into Friday and the upcoming weekend. We'll look at that in just a few minutes.
All right, thanks for that update there, Chris. Right now, we want to talk about a house fire that happened early this morning in Gresham. It sent one woman to the hospital. She lived there with her husband and the couple's 3 dogs, which all made it out of the house safely. The fire started just before 7 o'clock this morning on Northwest 6th Drive. A neighbor told us when she woke up, she saw the flames pouring out of the house along with flashing lights. She also said she saw the couple escape with their dogs.
Somebody handed me a small dog. So they have 3 dogs, and somebody handed me their small dog. When the wife who lives here, she was transported to the hospital. She looked like she was caught in a coffin and stuff, so smoke probably.
Those dogs, by the way, are now with another family member. Unfortunately, we also learned there was a cat living in that home that did not survive. We don't know yet how the fire started. The stock market is reacting to a new report that just came out today suggesting the U.S. job market remains more resilient than expected. The report from ADP Research Institute suggests hiring by private employers was much stronger last month than the experts predicted, with nearly twice as many jobs created as originally expected. So that's the good news. But there is still concern that the Federal Reserve will keep interest rates higher for longer in the ongoing effort to defeat high inflation. And that is why stocks are down today. So here's a live look at the big board, and it shows the Dow down over 300 points because of fears about future rate hikes. While that's happening on Wall Street, President Biden is on the campaign trail, highlighting the country's economy. He arrived in South Carolina earlier today, telling the crowd there about his push to promote clean energy, create jobs, and work across party lines to pass the bipartisan infrastructure law.
Over 13 million new jobs since I've been elected to office. more jobs than any president's ever created in the first 2 years. Nearly 800,000 manufacturing jobs, including 14,000 in this state alone.
Republican lawmakers say the president's initiatives have actually fueled higher inflation, leaving Americans in worse financial shape than before. Here locally, Portland City Commissioner Mingus Mapps says he's running for mayor next year. Mapps filed his intention to run with the city's small donor elections program, and he's the first candidate to register. Current Mayor Ted Wheeler, meanwhile, has not said whether he intends to run for what would be his third term in office. Some Alaska Airlines passengers finally made it home early this morning after a bomb threat forced the plane to make an emergency landing in Spokane. You can see in this video the plane surrounded by the bomb squad and police there on the tarmac. It was headed to Seattle from Atlanta. Alaska Airlines says a passenger made a threat about the safety of the plane to one of the flight attendants. Police evacuated passengers and searched the plane. Many other flights got delayed as they grounded flights in Spokane.
So I waited and waited and waited, and then I checked the reader board again, and now it says that the flight isn't scheduled to arrive until 8:41. No information other than this continuous delay.
We do know the person who made those threats, was taken into custody. The man accused of killing 2 people and wounding others near the Gorge Amphitheater last month, has pleaded not guilty. 26-year-old James Kelly appeared in court yesterday. According to court records, Kelly said he was on psychedelic mushrooms and he thought the world was ending. That's when he ran back to his truck and grabbed a gun from a lockbox and opened fire. 2 women from Seattle who were engaged died that night. Another man from Eugene was one of the other people who were injured.
A very unfortunate situation. Want to send some prayers your way, send some light your way, and some strength.
A familiar and very famous face sent a local 13-year-old a special get well message after he was hit in the head with a tire iron a few weeks ago in southeast Portland. A warning before we air the rest of the story, there are some details here that you may find disturbing. Police say Jamari Woodard was riding in a car near Southeast Foster Road and 122nd Avenue about 2 weeks ago. This was on June 24th. That's when they say witnesses saw someone throw the tire iron into the car. It actually had to be surgically removed from the boy's skull, and he's been recovering in the hospital ever since. Jamari and his family still aren't sure if what happened was an accident or if it was done on purpose. But Jamari recently got a boost from Blazers superstar Damian Lillard.
Jamari, what's good, bro? Heard the news. I just wanted to take a second to send you some love, send you well wishes, bro.
Don't trade teams.
Don't trade teams.
Amen.
Good to see Jamari was well enough there to tell Dame not to leave Portland, right? Investigators are still looking into this case and trying to track down witnesses. The man accused of helping former President Donald Trump hide classified documents pleaded not guilty in court today. Walt NADA was charged alongside Trump in June in a 38-count indictment. Prosecutors allege that NADA, at the former president's direction, moved boxes of documents bearing classification markings to avoid them being returned to the government. NADA is a Navy veteran who was Trump's valet at the White House before joining him as a personal aide at Mar-a-Lago. Portland State University is launching a new major that reflects their growing Latino student body. The Latino student population at the university has nearly tripled since 2011. As KGW's Daisy Caballero reports, the new Chicano and Latino Studies major that will be the first of its kind on the West Coast launches this fall.
Portland State will soon be home to the first university in the Pacific Northwest to offer a major in Chicano and Latino Studies, and it's launching this fall.
Latinxes are the largest ethnic minority, the fastest growing in our region.
For the last 3 decades, Portland State has offered students a minor in Chicano and Latino Studies, but will soon expand to a bachelor's program.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I think it's about time, honestly. Yeah.
Their Latino student body has grown from 7% in 2011 to a little over 20% this year. If Latino students make up a quarter of the student population, the school will earn the designation as a Hispanic serving institution. And that will open up federal funding and grants specifically for Hispanic students on campus.
It's important to note that this is really a decades-long fight.
Program Director Cristina Herrera finally got this program off the ground after her predecessors ran into issues around funding and lack of resources.
I think excited is an understatement. The interesting thing is that when we began developing this proposal, none of us set out to make history. We weren't even really aware that this would be the first major of its kind in the Pacific Northwest.
Students tell Cristina their classes are often the first time they've seen someone like themselves in the curriculum. And being a second-generation Chicana herself, she gets it.
And so students are hungry for knowledge, and they are hungry for the kind of validation that they've always deserved but never have had, sadly.
The new degree explores histories, politics, experiences, and cultures of Chicano and Latino populations in the U.S. through a critical lens of race, something many say should have been available years ago.
I think it's very empowering to have these kinds of studies because it shows that people are interested. I'm happy that we're finally having a Chicano and Latino study, and I'm excited to see what more they have to offer.
Cristina hopes this new leap is just the start of a bright future for Latino and Chicano communities.
They have the opportunity to major in Chicanx Latinx studies to actually see themselves reflected in a way that honors their experiences, that honors their community.
Daisy Caballero, KGW News.